China's pushing back against claims that COVID-19 may have started in one of its labs. The country is ramping up propaganda defending the Wuhan Virology Institute and the World Health Organization's study into the virus. And China's now trying to call out the United States, asking for an investigation into its government labs. Now, joining me now to discuss this is James Carafano, Heritage Foundation Vice President for National Security and Foreign Policy. James, thank you for joining me.
Good to be with you.
Well, this is probably a bit, I hope this isn't too cynical of you, but it does sound like the old playbook that when you've got something to hide, you point the finger everywhere else.
Yeah. Well, the problem is I think they're exploiting a weakness in the Biden administration. I mean, Biden foreign policy is turning out to be a happy meal, and you open the box and there's nothing in the box. So it's like the happy meal without the meal. So, I mean, the Biden said, look, we're going to be tough on China. We're going to demand the World Health Organization investigate China, and we're going to demand that China cooperate in the investigation. They say that knowing for a fact that neither of those things are going to happen. So essentially they have a policy of nothing. So they essentially create a space for the Chinese to move into to countermove. So we're going to see a lot of this, and not just with China, by essentially backing off and trying to disengage, much like the Obama administration did. They're opening up spaces for other guys. So they think they're being so smart because they think they're taking on very little risk. But what they are doing is they're freeing up the other guys to kind of take advantage. We saw it in Putin in the press conference, essentially going after the U.S. because he got to speak first in the press conference. And now we see the Chinese, because the U.S. response is so weak, say, we'll just go attack the U.S.
James, do you think we're going to need China's cooperation, which obviously we're not going to get, to discover whether or not this leaked from a lab? Or do you think there's going to be enough intelligence that we have, that other countries have, that scientific evidence that we may be able to piece together that will make a pretty convincing case that actually this did come out of the lab?
Well, I think that is the course of action. We should have a relentless, unforgiving, unrelenting intelligence investigation, not just because we need to know where the virus came from, because we do actually, but that will always keep the Chinese on their toes, because that you have to think 24/7, 365, every scientist, every piece of information, every piece of paper, every electron that might identify malicious activity by you have to lock down, and the Americans are coming for that every single day. That will not only put a lot of pressure on them, it will make them think twice before they try to hide stuff in the future.
And James, just very quickly on a different topic, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has vowed to be ready for, quote, dialogue and confrontation with the Biden administration. I suppose that covers just about everything. Do you think that this is perhaps a prelude to some more action, perhaps on the weapon testing front, or some other action coming out of North Korea?
I think they're reading the Iranians. They're going to see what the Iranians get out of the U.S., and then they're going to demand exactly the same kind of deal. And if they don't get it, they're going to be very aggressive. And I think the Biden team is in for a real roller coaster ride, because in rushing to do a really bad deal with the Iranians, they're actually maybe precipitating another crisis with the North Koreans.
Do you think we're going to get anything, any progress? President Trump obviously met twice with Kim Jong-un and, didn't seem to yield very much. Do you think any reason to expect the Biden administration will get any further?
Not if they're going to give carrots up front, they'll just get played. Or if the North Koreans are demonstrative and they immediately give them something, then they'll just be more demonstrative. So look, the Biden administration's said we want full nuclear disarmament, that we want verifiable things, and we're not going to give up sanctions on the front end. If they stick to that, they'll be okay. If they don't, they'll get played like a cheap suit. But the problem is by being so giving in to the Iranians and giving them so much free sweeteners on the front end, what they're actually doing is not only are the Iranians going to take advantage of, but the North Koreans are going to say, we're going to try the same thing because the Iranians did it and it worked.
James Carafano, very disturbing picture you paint, but thank you very much for joining us. Have a great weekend.
Sorry. You too.